Sometimes I regret not saving that guy's life. You know, sometimes I sit there and I'm like, you know, that's probably what a Christian would do. And yet I didn't have the guts to do it. You think you really know God, and there's just those moments where I went from this place of being a fan of God when I was 22 just to having this incredible faith where life went from black and white to vivid color. And it just became such a powerful thing in my life in the Army. I mean, the Army kind of sometimes runs a little contradictory towards that. And so I just made this call, this decision that the only thing in life that I really wanted to do was share the gospel. And so I find myself getting out of the Army, and I'm in Korea, and my colonel gives me a call. He's like, Chris, I want you to take command of this company. And so there's that moment, sure, you know what, I'll do one more year. You know, what's going to hurt? It's a great leadership experience. Well, 12 days after I take command, my colonel gives me another call. Hey, Chris, I need you to make an assessment of your men. I can't tell you why, but you can probably figure it out. Figure what out? Well, he told me I was going to war. I'm going to Iraq. A couple months later, I find myself in the sandbox of Iraq. And I'm now the commander of 100 men, 21 tanks, 7 Bradleys, which are like mini tanks, and a handful of Humvees. I'll never forget staying outside my command post of that first day of combat. I was watching just heat waves. I mean, it's hot. Heat waves are bouncing off the minarets of the mosque. It's 125 degrees outside. And there are my tanks rolling out in the sector. I mean, here I'm doing this. You know, this is real. And I glanced down at my watch to make sure everything's okay, and boom, a massive explosion erupts about a quarter mile out, and smoke and fire build into this mushroom cloud about 250 feet high. Immediately, I run into my command post. I'm trying to figure out through the situation reports what exactly is going on. And there's 3 letters that you never want to hear creep across the radio in combat, and that's KIA, kill in action. The first 4 minutes, I lose my first soldier. Immediately, I run and I go grab my M4 carbine rifle, my 9mm pistol, I put my flak vest on and I sprint down to my tank. And I charge that 50 caliber machine gun. My loader takes a 45-pound, 120mm round. He puts it in the breech of the main gun. My gunner toggles the switches on the computer while my driver pushes that 72-ton beast of machine 43 miles an hour toward the west gate. I line 3 tanks up on the line, to pound the north shore with everything we got. These terrorists start to withdraw to the north. I send 2 tanks across the river to follow. I follow my tank. 100 men behind me. We start searching house to house to house to house. And after about 7 hours of searching, we find nothing. I'm emotionally drained because I just lost my first soldier, and I gotta go home and back to the barracks and write a letter home to his wife Michaela and 13-year-old daughter Sarah, explaining to them how I let their father and husband die. You know, you got one job as a military leader, and that's to bring back everyone home alive. And the first 4 minutes of that, I fail. And spiritually, I'll be honest with you, it kind of felt like, you know, God took a day off. You know, when I came to faith in Christ, you know, at 22, we kind of had a deal. And so here I am 6 years later, and it kind of feels like that whole thing about I'll never leave you, forsake you, it's kind of church jargon now. But where are you? In the moment of where my companies were in battle and in combat, and I lose somebody, and there's that sense of you're on vacation. I was constantly out in sector. My uniform's white with sweat. I'm frustrated. I'm tired. Man, I don't even feel like I'm a Christian at all. I feel like, you know, I'm not praying. I'm not reading my Bible. I'm struggling here. And don't forget, I made a decision. I went up to my second in command, my executive officer. I said, Adam, check it out, man. I'm going to go down to the chapel every morning. I'd take one chair here and I'd set the other chair here, and I just sit there and I'd talk to God. I'd be like, you know what? I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I don't know if I can do this. I'm lonely. You know, there's no one I can really express that I've got fear to. That everyone looking at me, and I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders here. And so that frustration kind of mounts, and just kind of letting them have it, in a sense. Kind of figure that God's big enough for my worries. This one time, we're out in sector, and all of a sudden this terrorist takes a car bomb. And, you know, terrorist, that's not like he's got a uniform. He looks like everybody else. He takes a car bomb and he plows it right into one of my men's tanks. The car doesn't explode. In fact, there was something wrong, or he miscalibrated. Somehow the detonator didn't work, and he rams the car straight into the tank. And this is a 2.5-ton car running into a 72-ton tank. He loses. He's knocked out. The entire gas tank explodes. We have a massive inferno moving from the rear of the car to the front of the car where all these bombs are. And so this terrorist rolls out of the car because he wakes up because the heat must be just incredible, and he's starting to roll away from the blast. And there's a moment. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a moment I could have saved his life. I saw it. But I didn't do it. And there's just that moment I said, I'm not willing to die for my enemy right now. I'm not willing to do it. And so I watch him. The explosion erupted, and we watched his body ripped apart. And after the explosion, the dust settled. I jump off my tank, I sprint up to his body, and I watch crimson fill the sand. I'm that terrorist. When it comes to how I've affected my life towards God, I've been an enemy of him. And yet, he didn't sit back in his tank and just watch me die. He decided to come from heaven to earth to take that blast for me. Life is so short, and it's so urgent, and we have just this need to share the hope that we have with people who have no clue. I look at that terrorist, there's no way that I would ever go and save that guy's life, because I'm not that kind of a hero. I'm not willing to go and risk my life for an enemy. Yet, Christ did that very thing for me. So I owe him everything. And that's why he's first in my life, because he was willing to do what I never was able to do. I am Chris Plekenpol, and I am second.